Have you ever witnessed a fight where heart collides with power, where youth meets experience, and where every second inside the ropes feels like it could change a career forever? Because what unfolded inside the roaring arena that night was not just another championship bout. It was a defining war between ambition and dominance, between a fearless challenger from Tokyo and a reigning king determined to protect his throne. In the blue corner stood the unbeaten warrior from Japan, Takashi Inoue, dressed in white and navy, officially weighing 153.5 pounds, carrying an undefeated record of 13 victories, no defeats, 1 draw, and 7 knockouts, a challenger fueled by discipline, speed, and the quiet confidence of a man who believes this is his destiny. And across the ring, glowing under the lights in white and gold, stood the reigning, defending, undefeated WBO junior middleweight champion of the world, Jaime Munguia, tipping the scales at 153.25 pounds, boasting a perfect record and a reputation as one of the most dangerous finishers in the division. A fighter many had already begun calling the future of Mexican boxing, and before the first punch was thrown, you could feel the electricity in the air, the tension in the crowd, the sense that something unforgettable was about to happen. The referee called them to the center, touched gloves, and in that brief moment of respect, two warriors locked eyes. Not as enemies, but as professionals ready to test their limits. And when the bell rang, the chess match immediately turned violent as Inoue, noticeably shorter, yet quicker, exploded forward with a sharp right hand that snapped attention into the champion's posture, attempting to disrupt Munguia's rhythm before the bigger man could settle in, pressing inside, applying pressure exactly as promised, refusing to be intimidated by the champion's power. Munguia, however, remained composed, stalking forward behind a long jab, studying, calculating, slowly walking his man down like a predator measuring distance. And when he unleashed that signature left hook to the body, the kind of punch that doesn't just score but drains, the sound echoed with menace, a reminder that his body attack had broken many before. Yet Inoue did not retreat in panic. Instead, pivoting, slipping, flashing his jab, trying to frustrate the champion and steal early momentum with volume and aggression. And though heads occasionally clashed and elbows brushed in tight exchanges, neither man complained. Neither man stepped back from the fire. Munguia's right hand, thrown with full commitment, began landing with heavier consequence, and you could see the subtle difference. Inoue's shots were sharp, busy, technically clean, but Munguia's punches carried weight, thudding against ribs, snapping the head, slowly imposing physical superiority. Still, the challenger refused to fold, even as the champion's breathing grew more visible. Mouth open between bursts, a dangerous sign in a long fight, yet proof of how intense the pace had become. And if you're enjoying reliving this kind of high-level war, make sure you subscribe right now and drop a comment telling me who you thought was ahead after the first 5 rounds, because this battle only gets deeper from here. As the middle rounds unfolded, the narrative shifted from speed versus power to will versus durability. Inoue continuing to press forward with overhand rights that repeatedly found a home, snapping Munguia's neck back just enough to remind everyone that the challenger was no sacrificial lamb. While Munguia doubled down on his left hook, digging downstairs and upstairs in combinations that would have discouraged lesser fighters, but Inoue's chin, iron solid, absorbed the punishment without surrender, his eyes never leaving the target, his feet constantly inching forward. Backing up a champion few had ever seen retreat. Round after round, momentum swung like a pendulum. Inoue winning ugly exchanges with activity and pressure, Munguia answering with cleaner, heavier artillery. And at one dramatic moment along the ropes, it seemed as though the challenger might finally buckle, his legs briefly betraying him as a vicious hook landed flush. Yet he stayed upright, refusing to take a knee, refusing to let the story end there, and that resilience ignited the crowd inside the Toyota Center, where fans rose to their feet in appreciation of a contest that had evolved from tactical to primal. By round 11, fatigue etched itself across both faces, sweat and swelling telling their own brutal narrative, but still they traded, still they dared each other to break. Munguia throwing with conviction, Inoue answering with defiance. Neither willing to concede ground, though the champion's bodywork and heavier combinations likely built a lead on the scorecards. The challenger's relentless forward motion forced respect, proving that heart can narrow any gap in skill or size. The final round arrived not with hesitation but with urgency, the crowd roaring, sensing the climax. Munguia pressing forward to punctuate his dominance, while Inoue continued to gamble with overhand rights that had troubled the champion all night. Each exchange drawing gasps. Each landed punch, a testament to preparation, sacrifice, and pride. And when the final bell echoed through the arena, both men stood tall, exhausted, marked, but unbroken, embracing in the quiet understanding that only fighters share after surviving something extraordinary. The judges rendered their decision, and as expected, the undefeated champion remained exactly that, still the WBO junior middleweight champion of the world. His hand raised, his record intact, but numbers alone could not capture the full truth of what had transpired. Because this fight did more than preserve a title, it elevated a challenger, it tested a champion. It reminded every fan watching why boxing at its highest level is as much about courage as it is about skill. And as the camera zoomed in on Inoue's determined expression, you could see not defeat, but growth. Not despair, but belief that this was merely a chapter, not the conclusion. Munguia walked away with victory, yes, but also with lessons that pressure can be returned, that resilience lives in unexpected places, and that greatness demands adaptation. This was not a blowout, not a simple defense, but a furnace in which both fighters were refined, and that is why nights like these echo long after the lights dim. If you respect warriors who leave everything in the ring, now is the time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below with your thoughts. Was this the toughest test of the champion's career? And how far can the challenger go from here? Because conversations like these keep the sport alive. And as long as fighters step through the ropes with this kind of heart, we will keep watching, analyzing, and celebrating the beautiful brutality of boxing. As the echoes of that unforgettable battle slowly faded and the crowd began to file out of the arena, what remained was something far more powerful than a simple win or loss. It was a lasting statement about identity, evolution, and the unforgiving beauty of championship boxing. Because nights like this do not simply determine rankings or defend titles, they reveal character under the brightest lights and the heaviest pressure. And what we witnessed was a champion who proved he could withstand resistance while continuing to grow, and a challenger who may have fallen short on the scorecards but rose immeasurably in reputation. The reigning title holder walked into the ring, carrying expectations, the weight of an undefeated record, the pride of a fighting nation, and the burden that comes with being labeled the future. And although he exited with his belt still wrapped around his waist, the path to that result was carved through adversity rather than dominance, through adjustments rather than ease, and through grit rather than spectacle. Because the challenger refused to follow the script, refused to crumble beneath the body shots that had dismantled so many before him, refused to surrender to momentum when it shifted violently against him. Instead, he forced the champion to think, to adapt, to reset, to dig deeper into his conditioning and tactical discipline. And that is the hidden value of a fight like this. It accelerates maturity, it sharpens instincts, and it exposes vulnerabilities that must be corrected before even greater stages are conquered. The champion's power was real. His left hook as punishing as advertised, his combinations heavy and deliberate. Yet what stood out most in the closing rounds was not simply force but composure. The ability to manage distance when fatigue crept in, to tie up when necessary, to conserve just enough energy to finish strong rather than fade. At the same time, the challenger's stock rose dramatically, because bravery in the face of danger resonates louder than any highlight reel knockout. And when a fighter absorbs thunderous shots yet continues pressing forward with purpose, he sends a message to the entire division that he is not merely a contender, but a problem that refuses to disappear. This contest, therefore, becomes more than a single chapter. It becomes a crossroads, a moment that divides careers into before and after, where both men must now analyze the lessons hidden within the exchanges, refine their weaknesses, and embrace the growth demanded by elite competition. For the champion, the road ahead is filled with even greater expectations. Unification whispers, bigger arenas, louder audiences, and opponents who will study this performance frame by frame, searching for patterns to exploit, and whether he ascends to superstardom will depend not only on his natural aggression but on his willingness to evolve strategically, to tighten defense without sacrificing offense, to balance explosiveness with patience. For the challenger, the journey transforms into one of resurgence and recalibration, because a courageous defeat at the highest level often plants the seeds for a triumphant return. And if he channels the confidence gained from surviving championship fire into sharper execution and expanded versatility, the rematch conversations that once seemed distant may not be so far-fetched after all. In truth, boxing thrives on nights exactly like this. Nights where prediction meets resistance, where momentum swings unpredictably, where fans leave debating scorecards rather than yawning at inevitability, and where respect is exchanged as sincerely as punches, and that is why this bout will linger in memory. Not because of a single dramatic knockdown or controversial decision, but because it embodied competition in its purest form, two disciplined professionals risking everything for legacy. The final bell did not mark an ending, but rather a beginning. The start of new questions about how high the champion can climb and how fiercely the challenger will return. And as analysts dissect punch statistics and trainers review film in quiet gyms far from flashing cameras, one truth remains unshaken: neither man emerged unchanged. Both carry forward the physical reminders of combat and the psychological reinforcement that only 12 hard rounds can deliver. And those invisible gains often shape future greatness more than any undefeated record ever could. The champion must now confront the reality that dominance requires continual reinvention. That hunger must burn even brighter once success is secured, while the challenger must embrace the belief that resilience is currency in this sport, that durability paired with refinement can reopen doors many assume are closed. And as fans, we are privileged to witness these evolutions unfold in real time, to watch ambition tested and refined beneath unforgiving lights, to feel the surge of adrenaline when momentum shifts in a heartbeat, and to appreciate the discipline required to stand firm when exhaustion whispers surrender. This is why we watch, why we debate, why we celebrate, because boxing at its highest level is not merely about belts, but about willpower, adaptation, and the relentless pursuit of improvement. So as this chapter concludes, understand that the story is still being written, that the next training camp has already begun in spirit, that the hunger for redemption and validation fuels long roadwork sessions and late-night drills, and that somewhere in the quiet of preparation, both warriors replay those exchanges in their minds, searching for marginal gains that could define the next encounter. And if you felt the intensity of this battle, if you appreciate breakdowns that go beyond the surface and capture the heart of the sport, now is your moment to support the channel. Make sure you like this video to show your appreciation. Subscribe so you never miss the next in-depth fight story. Share this with fellow boxing fans who live for nights like these, and drop a comment below with your honest take on what this fight means for both men moving forward, because your voice fuels the conversation. Your engagement keeps the passion alive. And together we continue celebrating the warriors who step between the ropes and leave pieces of themselves behind for our respect and admiration.